The click of the conference room door latch was louder than it should have been. I was the last one out. Again. My laptop bag weighed more than usual, not because of the MacBook, but because of the silence. The kind that clings to your shoulders long after everyone else has gone back to their desks pretending nothing happened. Down the hallway, I could still hear them laughing. A tight cluster of voices outside the kitchenette. One of them was his. "Dude crushed it," someone said. A smacked shoulder. Another laugh. I didn't have to turn around to know it was about him. Chris Whitaker, team lead, Ivy League haircut. The kind of guy who calls your idea smart thinking in private and then says it louder in a boardroom like it fell from his own mouth. I used to think he didn't know he was doing it. Now I knew better. But this time, it wasn't just some whiteboard brainstorm or a stray solution tossed out during a sprint. This time, it was the whole damn deck. And it was mine. It started 3 weeks earlier. Not in a moment of inspiration or caffeine-fueled brilliance, but on the kind of Wednesday that smelled like stale carpet and underheated coffee. Our division, Technical Systems Strategy, was up for renewal in the next quarterly budget meeting, which meant one thing: presentation season. The higher-ups wanted a lean, digital-first, multi-sector proposal, which was exec speak for make it shiny, make it sound scalable, and make it cheap. Chris called it a good opportunity to showcase team talent. Translation: if someone on the team pulled off a miracle, he'd take it upstairs like a wrapped gift with his name on the card. I'd seen it happen with others, but I guess part of me still believed I could be different. That if the work was good enough, clean enough, undeniable enough, it couldn't be ignored. So I stayed late, skipped lunches, tested frameworks, mapped legacy system dependencies like I was untangling family trauma. I spent 2 full weekends building a model that could migrate our patchwork of outdated vendor tools into one API-centric platform, cost-efficient, low-touch, and scalable without burning down the old architecture. I even coded a working prototype: clean UI, collapsible dashboards, dynamic load balancer visuals. It wasn't just a slide deck. It was a pitch that could actually do something. Chris's eyes lit up when I showed him. That should have been my first warning. "Damn," he said, flipping through the slides. "This is clean, like really tight." I nodded. "I can walk the board through the use cases, maybe even demo the back end." "Let's keep the demo optional," he cut in, already reshuffling the order. "We don't want to get too deep into the weeds." I blinked. "Sure, but they're gonna ask how it works." "And we'll be ready," he said, clapping my shoulder like a coach subbing me out of my own game. "This is great. Man, really. Just needs a little framing." Framing. That's what he called it. What he meant was a rewrite of the title slide with his name on it. I didn't even notice at first. The prep week was chaos. Every department wanted their 2 cents represented in the deck. Legal nitpicked the terminology. Finance wanted projected cost savings punched up. Marketing had thoughts on fonts. By the time we got to the day of the presentation, the whole team was wired. Chris was pacing like a TED speaker backstage, except he hadn't written the speech. "Just be on standby," he told me that morning, "in case they want to deep dive on the tech stack." I stood in the back of the room while he talked. He smiled. He gestured. He joked about legacy systems like they were his exes. Slide by slide, he walked them through my model, my diagrams, my interface screenshots, my migration timeline, like he'd drawn them in Sharpie on a napkin during brunch. And when the CFO asked, "Whose idea was this consolidation approach?" Chris didn't blink. He said, "It came out of a lot of internal conversations, but yeah, I pushed for a unified solution. Felt like the right call." I stood there, silent, my palms damp, my jaw tight. No one turned to look at me. I told myself it didn't matter, that people knew, that the important thing was the project moving forward. that it was a win for the team. But the next day, when the division got the green light and the VP stopped by to shake Chris's hand, just Chris's hand, something in me cracked. Then came the email. It was forwarded to the whole company. Subject: great work from Technical Systems. Big shout out to Chris Whitaker for leading the charge on our new systems integration strategy. Great leadership. Great execution. My name wasn't mentioned, not once. That night, I stayed late again, but this time, I wasn't working on code. I was working on proof. It's weird how much metadata you can extract from a collaborative document history if you know where to look. I didn't just have a draft trail. I had timestamps, Git commits, email attachments with version names, Slack threads with embedded screenshots. The entire evolution of the project lived in fragments across platforms, and every breadcrumb had my initials on it. I exported everything, bundled it, annotated it. Then I scheduled a calendar invite for the next executive review meeting. Subject line: projector feed walkthrough, new deck structure preview. Chris approved it, said, "Nice initiative." I smiled. I knew the projector cable would already be plugged into his laptop when the meeting started. He liked to control the slides himself, but I'd installed a little toggle switcher in the AV cabinet, the kind that flips the source feed without needing to touch the computer. All I had to do was wait. The day of the reveal didn't feel cinematic. It felt like any other Tuesday. In Q4, gray skies, lukewarm air, and the slow crawl of fluorescent lights flickering on floor by floor. But I was sweating anyway, not the dramatic, storming out of the office kind of sweat. No righteous fire or theme music, just that dull, clinical kind that sits at your collar and makes your shirt feel a size too small. The kind that tells you, this might go badly. By 8:45, I was in early. Earlier than Chris, anyway. I knew he'd saunter in 15 minutes before the 10 o'clock exec review, Starbucks in hand, cracking jokes about his double shot of courage, or whatever line he recycled from his mentor-turned-TikTok coach. But I needed the room before that. The AV panel wasn't locked. It never was. Engineering had promised a security patch 3 quarters ago, and like most IT tickets, it got buried under more urgent ones. Lucky for me. Inside the cabinet, there were 2 HDMI feeds, one labeled wall port, Chris's laptop, and one running from the backup desktop in the media rack. I'd queued everything on that backup, my version of the presentation, my name in the header, annotated slides, revision timestamps baked in. Clean, professional, not vengeful, just factual. The toggle switch was small, a basic mechanical flip tucked behind the cable bracket. Took 10 seconds. No one would notice until they were supposed to. I did one final test run. Everything worked. At 9:08, I deleted the test log and cleared my browser history. At 9:13, I stood outside the windowed conference room watching the sun catch the glass and trying not to feel sick. Chris showed up at 9:37. Navy jacket, espresso, big grin. "You good, he asked me, like we were old teammates before a big game. "Yeah," I said. "You?" "Born ready." He hadn't even opened the deck, just tapped the screen awake and minimized his Slack notifications. I checked my phone. 9:46. The executives filed in slowly. CFO, Chief Strategy Officer, Ops VP, and the new tech hire who looked like he was still wearing his college orientation badge. Everyone nodded. One even complimented Chris's watch. I stayed seated at the corner of the conference table, not presenting, just tech support in case there was a glitch, which was ironic, given what I'd wired into place. Chris stood, did his usual opener, a tight 3 minutes of vision leadership fluff about ecosystem agility and future-ready consolidation. I barely heard it. I was staring at the back of his laptop, watching the cable pulse faintly with feed light. Slide 1. His name in 36-point bold. Slide 2. The overview, rewritten in his voice, still writing the bones of my outline. Slide 3. Use case animation, my prototype, his commentary. I watched the room lean in, saw the Ops VP nod with narrowed eyes, saw the CFO glance down at her printout, which I recognized because I had made that version 2 weeks earlier. I took a breath and flipped the switch. The screen blinked once, then again, and just like that, gone was Chris's curated version. In its place, a title slide with my name on it. Integrated Systems Framework, Migration plus API Infrastructure Proposal. By Daniel Reeves, revision timeline, August 3rd, September 21st. Chris froze mid-sentence. His clicker hand twitched. He pressed it once. Nothing happened. He frowned, leaned down to check his laptop. It was still on his deck, but the projector wasn't showing it. Someone in the room said, "Are we looking at a different file?" I stood. "Apologies," I said, keeping my voice even. "There's been a feed swap. Looks like we're seeing the original deck." I walked to the AV cabinet. "Didn't touch anything yet." Chris cleared his throat. Yeah. This must be an earlier version we collaborated on." I said nothing. Slide 2 appeared. Annotated timeline, edit history, Slack thread screenshots, all embedded directly into the deck. Someone murmured, "Huh." Chris tried to move toward the projector. "Let's just get back to..." The CFO held up a hand. "Actually, let's take a look." Chris's jaw flexed. Slide 3, interface diagram, my initials in the caption, file name in the bottom corner. Slide 4, code commit logs, GitHub metadata. Author, Daniel Reeves. Slide 5, system cost analysis, original, unaltered, before Chris had rewritten the phrasing to sound more palatable. I turned to the room. "This version reflects the development path of the proposal," I said. "Everything built on this came from here." The VP of Strategy leaned back in her chair. "Interesting. I wasn't aware you led this." Chris laughed, too loudly. "It was a joint effort. Daniel just got really into documenting every step." The room didn't laugh with him. Instead, the CFO looked directly at me. "Daniel, would you mind walking us through this version?" Chris stepped forward. No, I've got it. I'd like to hear it from Daniel," she said. And just like that, the cable wasn't the only thing disconnected. I kept it clean. Walk them through the real architecture, where the redundancies were, how we proposed segmenting critical data paths without affecting legacy access, how each visual tied into our long-term shift from vendor bloat to streamlined in-house integration. I didn't throw Chris under the bus, didn't name names, just pointed to what was already there. The documents did the talking. By slide 12, the room was quiet, but not confused, just focused. Even the new tech guy had stopped fidgeting. When I wrapped, I stepped back, happy to answer questions. There was a pause. Then the CFO said, "Why wasn't this the version presented last time?" Chris opened his mouth. I beat him to it. "That's a great question," I said. The meeting ended at 10:43. Most people shuffled out without comment, but I caught the Ops VP hanging back. He handed me his card. "Smart move, Shul," he said. "We need people who can see around corners." I nodded. "Appreciate it." He didn't smile, just tapped the card. "Keep me posted." Chris avoided eye contact the whole way out. His jaw was tight, the kind of tight that comes with splinters under the skin. At my desk, I had a single Slack message waiting. Chris W. 10:59 a.m. What the hell was that? I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a new document, titled it Next Steps, and started writing. The Slack message stayed unread for hours. I didn't ignore it to make a point. I just didn't want to waste the calm. There's a kind of stillness that comes after you show the truth. Clean, clinical, unretractable. It doesn't feel triumphant. It feels like the air's been let out of a tire. Quiet, flattened, real. The adrenaline had worn off by lunch. I was still sitting at my desk, poking through JIRA tickets like it was just another Tuesday. But my inbox told a different story. Subject lines kept stacking. Nice work earlier. Appreciated the transparency today. Mind chatting about that model later this week? They weren't from my team. They were from directors, strategy folks, 2 from the CTO's office. One of them CC'd Chris. I almost felt bad. Almost. By 3 o'clock, he came over. Didn't knock on my cubicle wall. Just stood there, like I'd triggered a fire drill. And he was the captain trying to keep order. Got a minute? I minimized my tabs. Sure. He didn't sit. You really blindsided me in there. I looked up. I used the deck you told me to prepare. He scoffed, just barely. Come on, man. You know what you did. I waited. You could have talked to me before making it a whole scene. I kept my tone flat. I tried. When you presented my work as yours, I was standing right there, remember? Chris's mouth opened, closed, then set into that PR smile he wore like aftershave. It was collaborative. Was it? We're a team. Is that what you told the CFO? That one hit. He exhaled, short and sharp. Look, I get it. You wanted credit. No, I said. I wanted honesty. He leaned in. You embarrassed me. I leaned back, not as much as I could have. That did it. He stood there for a second, like he was trying to summon a threat, but couldn't find one that fit. Then he nodded to himself and walked off. The next 2 days were quiet. Not externally. Outside, things moved fast. I was pulled into 2 follow-up meetings, asked to put together a case study version of the proposal for an internal training doc, invited to a cross-departmental lunch with the product innovation team. HR even reached out to schedule time to discuss role clarity and project attribution. But Chris? Silent. He didn't slack me, didn't stop by, didn't call another team meeting. I could see him down the hall through the frosted glass of his office, pacing sometimes, headset on, eyes hard. But he didn't look my way, which made it weirder when his name popped into my inbox late Thursday afternoon, this time attached to a calendar invite. Subject, 1.1, alignment discussion. When? Friday, 9:30 a.m. Where? 12th floor, East Conference Room. He didn't include an agenda. I RSVP'd anyway. Friday morning felt like it was waiting for something. The office was quieter than usual. A few people were still out on post-budget PTO. The lights in the hallway dimmed on a timer delay as I walked through, motion sensors still catching up. The East Conference Room was bigger than we needed. Table for 12, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the parking lot. Someone had left a marker uncapped on the whiteboard. The air smelled faintly of Expo ink and leftover pastry glaze from a meeting earlier that morning. Chris was already there when I walked in, suit jacket off, sleeves rolled, laptop open but idle. He didn't stand. Daniel? Chris? He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. I did. A long pause followed. He tapped his pen against the edge of his notebook, closed it, tapped again. Then finally, this isn't working. I raised an eyebrow. What isn't? This thing between us. I didn't answer. He continued, You're clearly talented. I'm not denying that, but you went over my head. You undermined me. I corrected the record. He leaned forward. You made me look incompetent. You did that yourself. His eyes narrowed, and then he dropped it. I talked to Alex, our department director. They're reviewing team structure next quarter. They're open to creating a new principal role. Independent contributor track. More autonomy. Less conflict. I stared at him. You're offering me a promotion? He exhaled. I'm offering you an out. I can spin this. Say we identified leadership potential. Make you a direct report to the CTO's office. No harm done. And in return, no more theatrics. Ah, there it was. Keep quiet. Don't challenge him. Let him save face. Take the promotion, stay out of his way, and let him rebuild whatever image had cracked in that boardroom. It was tempting. Not because I wanted to protect him, but because I was tired. Tired of fighting for scraps of credit in a system that let guys like Chris coast on charisma while people like me bled into PowerPoints and build logs. Tired of defending facts as if they were opinions. Tired of pretending fairness just needed time. But something in me had shifted. So I said, I appreciate the offer. I'll think about it. Chris smiled. Brief, controlled. Good. Let me know by Monday. I nodded and stood. At the door, I paused. Then I turned and said, by the way, that projector switch? It wasn't a one-time thing. His brow creased. What do you mean? I smiled, for real this time. I mean, next time, maybe don't assume you're the only one who knows how to build the room. And I left. Back at my desk, I declined the calendar hold. Then I opened a blank Word doc and began drafting an internal white paper based on the system architecture I built. Not for Chris, not even for the board. For everyone else in the company who didn't know what we were capable of, until now. There's a strange calm that settles after you stop asking permission. I felt it the following Monday when I walked past Chris's office without pausing. No knock, no nod. Just kept moving. The hallway was the same. Beige walls, stale coffee smell, printers coughing somewhere down the corridor. But something in me had shifted. I wasn't playing backup anymore, and people noticed. My name started showing up on invites, not just tacked on at the end, featured. Lead Systems Architect Q1 Planning. Migration Protocol Roundtable, hosted by D. Reeves. Daniel, can we loop you into the new integration scope? It wasn't fame. It wasn't power. It was presence. The kind I'd been earning quietly for months, but never got to cash in on. Until now. Still, I wasn't naive. Chris wasn't going to roll over. He was too practiced, too polished. People like him didn't confront you directly when they were cornered. They pulled strings in rooms you weren't in. So when I got a same-day HR meeting request on Wednesday afternoon, my stomach tensed on instinct. Topic: team alignment plus communication concerns. I read it twice. Then I packed my notebook and walked down to HR, mentally rehearsing everything I knew. The conference room they booked was small. 2 chairs, 1 plant that hadn't been watered in at least a week. The HR rep, Marisol, was kind but unreadable. She offered water. I declined. Then she pulled up her notes. I wanted to meet with you, she began, because there have been a few reports of tension between team members. Nothing formal, but we've seen a pattern of flagged interactions. I kept my face still. Was there a specific report? No, she said. Just a trend. Some concerns about collaboration, attribution, presentation etiquette. There it was. Chris hadn't filed a complaint. He'd just created smoke. I leaned forward slightly. Am I under review? No, not at all, she said. This is exploratory. Just a chance to check in. See how things are going from your end. I exhaled. Not relief, just confirmation. I'd be happy to walk you through the documentation trail of the last 3 weeks, I said. Slack threads, version logs, submission dates, everything's archived. She blinked. That won't be necessary. I paused.
Then what are...
We evaluating? She hesitated. Perception. I nodded slowly. Got it. That's when I knew what this was. Not disciplinary, not protective. It was containment. They didn't want another projector moment. They wanted quiet. Clean desks. Unruffled egos. I took a breath. Marisol, I said, I'm not interested in office theater. I didn't go looking for credit. I went looking for truth, and I found it. She nodded, still neutral. We're just asking for a collaborative tone going forward. Tone's easy, I said, so long as the content matches it. She offered a tight smile. Thanks for your time, Daniel. I appreciate your clarity. I left before the plant started wilting further. The next week moved in double time. Chris tried to reclaim space in little ways. Passive-aggressive edits in shared docs. Reworded ideas presented at team syncs with no attribution. Suggestions to loop in leadership whenever I made forward motion. But the difference now? People pushed back. One morning, I posted an updated deployment diagram in the # strategy infra Slack channel. 15 minutes later, someone replied, Love this, Daniel. Reminds me of that model you presented during the projector flip. Another comment below it, We stand receipts. I didn't reply. I just kept posting work. Friday rolled around, and with it came something unexpected, an invite from the CTO's office. Coffee plus concepts was Julian. Julian was the CTO. I'd never spoken to him directly, only seen him at all hands and on the company wiki. The invite was for 10:30 that morning. No notes, just a room number and a calendar emoji. I showed up 10 minutes early, sweaty-palmed and unsure if I was being scouted or sentenced. Julian was already there. Button down, no tie, sleeves pushed up like he'd just stepped away from a terminal. He offered coffee. I accepted. Then he got right to it. I saw your presentation, he said. I blinked. The one last month? The real one. My stomach tightened. He smiled faintly. Don't worry. I appreciated it. I said nothing. He continued. We need people who aren't afraid to fix broken pipes when they find them, even when those pipes have names. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. He sipped his coffee. How do you feel about building something bigger? I raised an eyebrow. Define bigger. Platform level bigger. Leading a Tiger team. Rethinking our entire vendor integration stack. Reporting to me. I stared. I'm serious, he said. I need someone who understands the tech, but also how to push back when it matters. I nodded slowly. I'm listening. We'll talk scope next week, he said, but I wanted to plant the seed. You've earned the right to water it. We shook hands. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was holding someone else's shovel. Back at my desk, I found another Slack from Chris. Chris W., 11:15 a.m. Congrats on the Julian chat. Hope it works out, no period. I didn't reply. I just opened my notebook and added one new bullet to the bottom of my to-do list. Redraw the org chart quietly. By the time the official promotion came through, nobody was surprised. Not because I'd been lobbying for it, but because I hadn't. The email came from Julian's office on a Thursday morning. Subject line, New role announcement, Daniel Reeves, Principal System Strategist. No fanfare, no gifts, just a clean 3-paragraph note highlighting my independent initiative, systems-level insight, and collaborative transparency. My name was bolded. Chris's wasn't mentioned. I stared at it for a full minute, not because I needed the validation, but because for the first time, the recognition came before the fight. The role came with a new office. Not glass walls or anything obnoxious. Just a corner spot 2 floors up, closer to the product heads and further from the people who only cared about polish. I moved in quietly. 1 monitor, 1 stack of notebooks, and a small ceramic cup with "Build It Better" etched into the side. A gift from someone in dev who saw my name on the new cross-functional Tiger Team invite and sent a thumbs up emoji with it. No balloons, no big speeches, just space to think, which really was all I'd ever wanted. I saw Chris again 2 weeks later. It was in the elevator. Classic corporate coincidence. Doors open, you're already inside, and there's just enough space between you to keep it civil. He looked tired, a little puffy around the eyes, not unwell, but worn, like a guy whose footing wasn't quite as firm as it used to be. I nodded once. He returned it. We didn't speak. He got off 2 floors down, right before the new hire orientation area. I wondered if they'd assigned him onboarding duty. I didn't ask. I haven't spoken to him since, not because I'm holding a grudge, but because some people aren't meant to be warned. They're meant to be replaced. Julian's Tiger Team launched 2 months after our first meeting. We weren't flashy, no reorg announcements, no headline Slack messages. Just a small crew of engineers, designers, and integration architects who wanted to build something real and didn't care who got the credit as long as the job got done right. I led by showing. Not with titles, not with flair, just with blueprints, working prototypes, and clean handoffs. And over time, something changed. Not the company, not completely, but the culture around us. People started sharing their doc authors again, tagging their sources, leaving comments that weren't just emoji reactions, but real feedback. No one said my name when they did it, but I saw the ripple, and that was enough. Sometimes I still think about that morning, the one when I flipped the feed and let the room see what had really been built, and by whom. Not because I'm proud of the trick, but because it worked, not to destroy someone, but to build something cleaner in the wreckage. There's a myth that revenge is loud, that it comes with yelling or slamming doors or Twitter threads. But the best kind? It's quiet, unmistakable, documented, and impossible to rewrite. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.